You might know the name Romanov, maybe from a movie about a lost princess, maybe from a glass case in a museum holding a jeweled egg that sold at auction in December 2025 for $30 million. The family that name belongs to ruled Russia for 300 years, until a basement in 1918 ended all of it. The Romanovs didn't come to power through conquest, and they didn't inherit it by simple right of blood. They came to power because a volcano on the other side of the world erupted in 1600 and froze the harvests of the country they would eventually inherit 2 summers in a row. That volcano had a name nobody in Russia would ever hear. Most of them never even learned why their crops had failed. On February 19, 1600 in southern Peru, a mountain blew itself apart in the largest eruption South America has ever recorded. A column of ash and rock climbed more than 20 miles into the sky. In a city 75 kilometers away, the ground shook hard enough to bring down a cathedral. Ash fell so thick that houses collapsed under the weight of it. For hours one Sunday afternoon, witnesses said it grew so dark that people couldn't see each other, even by lantern light. Entire villages closer to the mountain were buried outright. Vineyards that had taken decades to establish disappeared under sand and ash in a single day. Watching the sky go black at midday, survivors told a Spanish soldier they believed it was the end of the world, and that since they were dying anyway, they should eat and drink everything they had left. What happened next took a year to reach the other side of the planet, and nobody alive at the time could have connected the two. The mountain threw enough sulfur into the upper atmosphere to dim sunlight worldwide for months. It's the best explanation scientists have for why the summer of 1601 turned out to be the coldest the northern hemisphere had seen in 600 years, by tree ring records that still hold up today. In Russia, crops froze in the fields in July. It happened again the next summer. Grain prices that had stood steady for years tripled, then tripled again. The famine that followed killed an enormous number of people. Nobody knows exactly how many. Contemporary accounts range from the merely catastrophic to numbers modern historians consider impossible to credit, but even the most conservative modern estimates put it at several 100,000 dead, in a country whose government had no real way to feed them. Tsar Boris Godunov hadn't inherited his throne. He'd won it through a council vote after the old royal line died out, and that made his legitimacy fragile from the start. When the harvests failed 2 years running, many of his own subjects decided it could only mean one thing: divine punishment for an usurper sitting on a throne that wasn't his. Godunov opened the state granaries and gave grain away for free, which only drew more starving refugees into a capital that couldn't feed the people already there. He died suddenly in 1605, his government collapsing around him. What followed is remembered in Russian history simply as the Time of Troubles. Rival claimants, foreign armies occupying Moscow itself, years with no stable government at all. Godunov's throne was never fully secure, an usurper's crown rarely is, but a fragile claim to power isn't the same thing as a doomed one. Take away the eruption and Russia gets 2 ordinary harvests instead of 2 ruined ones. There's no famine handing every single one of Godunov's enemies a story about divine punishment. No starving capital ready to believe any rumor that reached it. No opening for a parade of imposters and rival armies to walk through. Godunov, or whoever followed him through more ordinary means, very plausibly keeps the throne. Instead, a volcano nobody in Russia had heard of erupted on the other side of the world and froze the harvests that were holding his legitimacy together. It took 8 more years of chaos, foreign occupation, and rival claimants before Russia's nobility finally settled on someone everyone could accept, a 16-year-old named Mikhail Romanov, chosen partly, by one contemporary account, because he was young enough that the men choosing him assumed he'd be easy to control. He was crowned in 1613. His family would rule Russia for the next 300 years. You know their name from a film about a princess who supposedly survived their downfall and didn't, and from a jeweled egg behind glass that someone paid $30 million for in December 2025. All of it, the dynasty, the legend, the eggs, traces back to a mountain in Peru that erupted in 1600, and 2 ruined harvests an ocean away that nobody in Russia ever knew the real cause of.